Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Frank Macalusa from Garageaholic, and we're going to be working on bodywork today on the E30 N54. What kind of bodywork? Well, the previous owner did some pretty nasty stuff with the bumpers, and we're going to be doing some fiberglass resin filling. We're going to be doing some fiberglass, some Bondo, and then some polyurethane filler to smooth it all out, and then we'll paint our bumpers. Let's take a look. So this is the bumper, the lower cover, MTech 2 cover for the E30. And you can see that the previous owner had put these LED lights in here with some brackets. So this obviously needs to get removed, and we're gonna be going back to a factory look. That involves fiberglassing and fixing this now hole that will be resident on the bottom of the bumper, and obviously we're going to be smoothing this all out and painting it the same Diamond Schwartz 181 black. So we're going to be doing some fiberglass work here, and we're also going to be working on the rear bumper. Now let's take a look at that. There's some additional work that's been done on the rear bumper as well, not only the bumper but also the skirt. So we have to fill both of these. Looks like there's a camera there that needs to be filled in. So we're going to end up removing the bumpers. We're going to be filling in those holes, and we're going to be repainting the rear bumper and skirt as well. Now, I would love to actually repaint this entire car Diamond Schwartz black. It's a tall order, and I think that might be something that'll be deferred to later by my customer. But I am going to be painting the bumpers, I'm going to be painting the engine bay, and I'm going to be washing and waxing and cutting this entire car so that everything will at least look as new as it possibly could. I've gotten rid of all the rust spots in the engine bay, and and now I'm just got to do a little bit more body work here on the rest of it to get it looking like a stock car again. Oh, and in this episode we're going to be painting the engine bay too. Might as well paint the engine bay along with the bumpers, because might as well paint everything at the same time if you're going to be mixing paint, right? So we're going to be using a base clear on both the engine bay as well as the bumpers, and we'll be doing it all together, or at least in the same day, so we can take full advantage of the painting aspect of this swap. So we already removed the front valance. Let's try to remove the rear bumper and valance and put this thing together down on the ground and figure out how to fiberglass this up and do our body work so we can paint it up. All right, so there you have it. The rear bumper and skirt have been removed, and we can start working on fiberglass. You guys may have noticed I got these headphones on. Yeah, they're noise canceling headphones, Bluetooth hookup to my phone so I can listen to music. It makes working on the car a lot more peaceful. I usually use working on cars as a stress reliever for just the day-to-day, and it's nice to kind of like chill out in here and kind of work, but to have, you know, nice music playing, or maybe not nice music playing on your headphones while you're working is kind of like an added bonus. So these noise canceling headphones by Covey are actually pretty cool. Not a plug, just saying I'm starting to use them and I like them a lot. They don't get in the way. They're good for shielding the sound from lighter tools like you know, the grinder and drills and things like that. So it's kind of cool to have it around. Anyway, let's get on to the build. Here's the bumpers. Here we go. This is what we need to do. We need to, as you can see, it's actually in pretty bad shape. The ABS is kind of cracking and the paint's cracking. So we gotta basically redo all of this and repaint all of this. So no big deal, we can do it. Fill in the holes, 2 holes there. And then we gotta take off the lights from the front. And then we gotta paint the engine bay. So let me show you the paint that I got. This is Frank's paint corner. I got all my different paints. I got these 2 pails here are my E31 paint, so I'm not going to show you the color that's going to be. But I do have some other colors here, including this guy. This is the 181 Diamond Schwartz black. This is what I'm going to be using. It's a 2-to-1 mix. Wanda paint is actually pretty good, so it's basically 2 parts color to 1 part reducer. And that gives me about 1.5 quarts of actual paintable paint. And of course, it's going to be clear coated as well. So we're going to be working on all that together. So now let's talk about fiberglass. Oh wait, actually I gotta go back to Frank's paint corner. Back to Frank's paint corner, here we are, and we are gonna be using a fiberglass repair kit. This is what's used to literally repair you know, boat hulls, and obviously there's a Corvette there because Corvettes were fiberglass back then. So this is going to be used. It has some fiberglass sheets. It's got the resin, and really that's really all that we need here is that basic stuff in order to fill the hole, and then we can start using things like. And then we got the Bondo here. This is actual Bondo. We're going to be using this as a rough measure of you know, smoothing the surface out. And then we're going to be going into the final stage of smoothing the surface out, which is a polyester. This is like a dolphin. It's like a urethane glaze. So this is the third stage. And then after that, we do a nice smooth sand with 600 grit, and it is ready for primer. So let's put these, literally, let's put these guys over here, and we can start working on sanding and prepping the surfaces and getting ready for fiberglass. So I really haven't done too much fiberglass work in my time, but I'm always willing to learn. This is actually not that difficult. You got 3 different components for fiberglass. You basically have your hardener, your resin, and then your mat. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix it in the appropriate ratios. You get your resin and your hardener here, and to this. And then you're just gonna take the mat and you're gonna lay it over the bumper. I'll show you how to do that. And then you're just gonna roll it in and it'll dry, it hardens, and it's all sandable. So the whole thing about fiberglass is that you wanna figure out how many layers you need to put on in order to get a good you know, factory look to it while it's still strong. You don't want it to be too weak, so you want to put a number of different layers on. I think I want to put like maybe 3 layers. So every time I do a layer, I want to let it kind of get tacky and then put another layer on. So what we do is we cut this layer down and we put our pieces on. And then once it starts getting tacky, we'll put another layer on. So let's give that a shot and see how it works. Now all I have to do is I have to take the car behind me, turn it around 180 degrees, have it face the garage, and I can get the engine bay prepped for paint. Let's do that right now. Poked holes, or not poked holes, I put rubber plugs in all the locations where there's threads so I don't paint over the threads. Basically everything is completely taped off that I do not want painted Diamond Schwartz black. And I also put the car on the ground because I'm gonna need to roll the front wheels over the lip of the garage to go outside where I'm gonna paint. Those casters are too small and they won't go over the lip there. So I'm just gonna roll the front end out and then just get it ready for paint tomorrow when it's a little bit nicer out. But yeah, we're gonna end up doing a full epoxy primer, then we're gonna do a base coat, then we're gonna do a clear coat, and we're gonna get this thing looking snazzy. We gotta prep the rear bumper. We might move the front bumper off to another episode, but for now we're gonna focus on the rear. We got the fiberglass done and we need to continue to smooth out these holes with some Bondo and some polyester filler. But for now, I wanna sand it all down with 220, then 400, then we can start placing our Bondo down, and then we can sand the whole thing down before we lay our epoxy primer and base clear. So to be perfectly blunt, I didn't think that by starting to sand this and take care of these 2 spots here that I'd end up having to basically redo the whole bumper. But I'm not naive. I know that, you know, I'm gonna have to deal with previous bodywork done to this, but there has been a lot of bodywork done to this. There's a couple layers of paint, couple layers of primer, and I'm gonna do the best I can to try to get rid of and make everything, you know, as smooth and, you know, stock looking as possible, there are a lot of spider webs, spider webbing and cracking in the bumper itself. So this is a very curvy surface, a lot of undulations, a lot of inner fillets and things like that on this bumper. So it's probably not going to be nearly as noticeable as if it were on a flat surface. But I'm going to do the best I can to smooth this out, prime it up. It'll look a lot better after it's primed, but I do need to do some body work. There's some cracks in the ABS and in the fiberglass that I need to smooth out, and then put some Bondo over and do that in all different spots, smooth it all out, and then we can start laying our first coat of primer down. Okay, did a couple additional layers to smooth everything out, and it is now smooth, and we are going to end up putting our first coat of primer on both the core support, the bumper, and of course the car in there. We're gonna bring the car out here, and we're gonna be painting outside. That's the best I can do right now. I cannot paint inside. I have not set up a booth, but for an engine bay and for things like this, I think it should be just fine. So let's get that car out. So for primer, I've decided to use the epoxy primer. It's the same thing I used on the E30 N54 when I painted that one yellow. It's a 1-to-1 mix, so it's super easy. You get 1 gallon of each, and you end up having 2 gallons of paintable primer, which is nice. So I've actually, maybe I mixed a little bit too much here, but this is a good 1-to-1 mix here. And paint it, pour it rather, into my Iwata LPH 400 gun, and I'm going to be spraying it with a 1.2 millimeter Pinto, which is a little bit smaller than is recommended for an HVLP gun for primer, but that's all that I have. So it's going to come out as a pretty fine mist, but that's okay. So the last thing to do right before you paint is to apply what's called like a painting pre-prep. It's kind of like an acetone spray that removes wax and dirt and grease and stuff like that. I'm going to be doing it on the surface prior to applying the primer. I'm going to be doing it on this bumper and of course the core support as well. But once you do that, then the surface is basically ready to go to lay your base coat. But I want to make sure that I don't have any fisheye in the paint, and this is really going to help to prevent that because it removes any type of grease or wax that might already be on the paint that would otherwise allow fisheye, and I don't want that. So. Primer's been applied. It's not bad. I mean, it's still a little shiny in some places, so it's still kind of drying. But the bodywork seems to be pretty solid. There's still some cracks that are showing through. You can see some of the cracks there from the ABS cracking under pressure from previous bodywork. So I'm going to do the best I can to smooth that out. But the actual chassis turned out pretty good. Pretty happy about the chassis. Basically, everything that's gray will end up getting painted. Yes, that's right. Diamond Schwartz black. I'm not doing any crazy colors, not this time. This is supposed to be a classy car. We're going to keep this car classy with a lot of power, moderate power, and just a nice classic look. And of course, you can see the core support was done as well, and that'll also be painted black to match. So pretty good so far. Let's wait and apply our first coat of color. Guys, that just about does it for part 1 of this painting series. We got a couple things we got to continue to work on, but part 2 will have some pretty cool stuff I think you're really going to like. I'm going to be purchasing and reviewing a product that I think is going to make me a lot more versatile as I move forward with not only this project, but also future projects that require paint work. So I am going to be painting this engine bay. I'm going to be painting the front and rear bumpers, and that'll all be in part 2. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I look forward to speaking with you again. My name is Frank Macaluso. I'm in an engine bay, and I am out of here. Later.